All right, so we are live. I don't know why the clock says 23 seconds because I haven't been recording for 23 seconds, so I'm a little afraid. Welcome to a Friday episode of the Sunshine State Happy Hour, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com and the Lager Layover Podcast and the Florida Beer Podcast and whatever else I decide to create because some other stuff is going to be happening, which is great. This is Dave, your host and author. Steve is actually with me today. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Get away from me. 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. And I'm very happy to finally have on the horn Blake and Brett, co-owners of Odd Colony Brewing, all the way up in Pensacola, the tiny little bit of Florida that is not in the Eastern time zone. Guys, how you doing?
Doing well. And, in the relative sense, we're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I was going to say, on the Florida Beer Podcast about a week and a half ago, we were chatting with DC Reeves from Perfect Plane, who I know you are familiar with, obviously. But things hadn't quite opened back then. Things are a little bit different now. It's been a week and a half, which is kind of a big, fast time in terms of what's going on. So how is Pensacola in general and you all in particular?
Yeah, I mean, we're hanging in there. I mean, we're like most breweries, except for a couple that have in-house kitchens that are kind of operational now at a reduced capacity. But we're doing to-go hours, trying to kind of still brewing, 2 times a week-ish, still producing, trying to keep people interested and doing new releases. And support's been kind of unreal, especially through March and April from the to-go crowler side. Like we've broken our crowler machine like 3 times just through the usage. But I don't think those things are used to getting that kind of abuse. But we kept ordering parts from October. But yeah, it's been good. It's tailing off a little bit, since, through phase 1, the restaurants have opened and the bars that have food have opened. And so it's tailed off a little bit, but we're hanging in pretty strong and we'll certainly make it through this time, considering this doesn't last till 2022. But it is what it is. Most of all, we're just a little bored. We miss our guests and miss sharing the walls with the people that are in here day to day. Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So he was just about to finish something. I figured it would be a great time to ask as to what you two guys are drinking, because I kind of want to get into some of the beers that you make, which are you've got a kind of interesting little niche, not just in the Pensacola beer scene, but in the Florida beer scene in general. So I definitely want to go into that. But first of all, what are you two consuming?
Currently, looks like Blake is consuming our Barren Lands, which is kind of resumed our staple IPA, somewhere in between a hazy and like a traditional West Coast IPA. Hazy in appearance, quite clearly. And then I'm drinking our American Lager, our Bone Harvest American Lager. And yeah, we've actually had both of these beers since early on in the project, but not necessarily out the gates. Bone Harvest was with us, and then Barren Lands came a month or 2 after opening.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds kind of fantastic. I cracked open a crowler of Milk District, which is a milkshake IPA from Ellipsis, which
is delicious.
Yeah, they're
Nice.
great. Yeah, they're really great stuff. Fantastic brewery. Like I said, I did an interview with them, and it's very difficult because they were basically just under the final approach into Orlando International Airport, so we had to do a lot of pausing and waiting for the planes to go by. I was going to say, because Pensacola is the home of the Blue Angels. Do you get irritated with them playing around?
No, we're kind of out of the flight pattern in downtown Pensacola. So not like I get way more flyover at my personal residence than here, but it's pretty cool. Every once in a while, you'll see all the Blue Angel jets, or I forget what the other ones are called, like big bombers flying over, and everyone's like, "Hey, there they are." But I don't personally see too many.
Yeah, I mean, you hear them on occasion because they'll do like occasional crossovers to downtown, but they frequent the beach and they frequent a little bit west of town, which isn't that far. You can kind of hear these distant, sounds, but it's cool to have. And obviously it's a cool weekend whenever they do fly out of the beach if you can make it out there in time to fight the crowds.
Nice. So I know with Odd Colony, there's a lot of structure on mixed fermentation, your open sort of different cultures using different bugs, as we say. What was really the impetus in creating something that had a very strong foot in that sort of realm? And how difficult was it to bring that style to Pensacola and the Pensacola craft beer scene?
Let's see, like a big influence, I think, is just the nature of farmhouse brewing. I think it intrigues us as people. Utilizing local agriculture, local terroirs is intriguing from a consumer standpoint. We also happen to we enjoy being outside pretty often. So kind of aligning those two and kind of spinning it around. Another thing that we're incredibly intrigued by, which is just this mysticism of yeast and bacteria and how you can harvest these native cultures and really create a product that's unique, I think is very intriguing to us. We also like to consume them. I do believe mixed culture, outside of just the folklore, we also enjoy consuming them, particularly in a hot environment. I think they're dry, acidic for the most part nature, kind of makes for a very tasty beverage in our environment. So that was a big part of the draw.
And on a technical side, how do you are you able to go out into the field and actually forage for a lot of those yeasts? I know that there's some other breweries in the state that like to do that as well. Is that something that you've been able to accomplish?
Yeah, very I guess in a bare bones type of way, we've been able to kind of, brew up some wort and, put some cheesecloth over some mason jars and kind of capture yeast in a couple different regions throughout our city and the surrounding areas. And we've had some success with some and some not success with others. And we've been doing it for about a year. But we've got a really intriguing culture going right now that we've done a pilot batch with, just to kind of make sure that it's what it was promising, from the sensory that we got out of the ball jar. But it seems to be progressing well, and we're actually about to inoculate some barrels in the coming probably month or two.
Nice.
But, yeah, we've been doing that, and then another big thing is kind of utilizing the local agriculture, foraging for local ingredients. We were actually out today. It's probably smell pretty bad at this point, because we've been out in the field all day today at our some friends of ours that own Mayday Farms. They produce some cool adjuncts for us, but then on top of that, they also just have some wild things. So they've got some elderflowers that we foraged today. And then we spent the greater part of our day foraging these dark, tart cherries. Out fun. They have 4 trees in the back of their property. So we spent probably a good 6 hours or so doing that. And I just got back. So yeah, a little tired, but we're here.
Not only am I thankful for you spending some time and foregoing the shower to chat with us, but that stuff sounds fantastic. Right. But it's also interesting.
I could do. Lucky.
I was going to say, it's also interesting that on the other end, you've got a very crisp, clean lager that you said has been with you forever. And the one thing that I'm hearing from a lot of brewers is, there's not a whole lot of turnover in terms of beers right now. They're able to extend the brewing process, and so a lot of them are just taking this time to sort of throw some lagers in the tank and let them sit for a little while. Is that something that you're doing a little bit more of, and are you seeing a lot of brewers in Pensacola do that?
Yeah, I definitely. That was, I think, not too unique to us in that whole idea. I, I think when it first started, we reached out for lager yeast from White Labs, and it took a little bit longer than, because I think they were overwhelmed with the amount of lager inquiry. But yeah, so we've been doing lager since the beginning, and again, it's like a lot of people speak of sense of place being surrounded by, like beer styles that intrigue them, utilizing local agriculture and all that kind of fun stuff. But on top of that, I think you have to evaluate your climate. And so us being in how Florida is, it gets a little warm down here. So I think these acidic beers, acidic sours and mixed culture beers are great for that. But also the beers that we were kind of raised on, these lagers, obviously a lot of us are raised on macro lagers, but now craft taking it over and making kind of their own unique spins on it. And so lager was a big discussion early on. And so we actually, if you were to call any of our beers staples, 2 of the 3 are lagers. We have the Bone Harvest American Lager, pretty traditional. And then we also have our Moonbeam, which is a dark Czech lager that we open ferment in our open fermenter that we have a nice little room that we dedicated to open fermentation. And then, so moral of the story being, we focused big on the mixed culture side as well as lagers, and are extending that even more so now as we roll into the COVID.
And to add on that, we just did a dry hop German pills, and then we've also been filling. We have 6 scooters here, so we've been filling those as well while we're just sitting idle.
And considering buying barrels, but also walking delicately with what's going to happen in the next 2-3 months.
Exactly.
Basically, can we just come up and visit, and we'll just spend the night? Each one of us will spend the night in one of your fooders.
Yeah. We lost it.
Really, somebody was not happy about that.
There it is. Are y'all all right?
Yeah, we're fine. Please ask a question. So,
So,
Is it gusty in there?
I'm stunned at that point.
yeah, I know. Gotcha. So, I guess my question is,
I'm going to see a spike in heat right there.
but I'll move it here in a few seconds. I guess it's been that sort of day.
Yeah.
Really, it has been. So Pensacola has been growing quite the extensive craft beer scene for quite some time. I mean, obviously, you've got Pensacola Bay; they've been there forever, and people like Perfect Plane have been showing up.
Yep.
We spoke to Alga Beer Company. I've been chatting with him for many, many years now. So, with the Pensacola beer drinker, is it something to where they will understand what the mixed firm beers are and just come seeking that out anyways? Or are a lot of them coming in for the lagers, for the clean traditional beers, and then while they're there, you sort of bring them in to the different cultures, so to speak?
That's a great question. We discuss that with relative frequency in that sour, obviously we do a little kettle sours to kind of fill that void while we're waiting on these mixed culture beers to come out. But we see a huge spike in that. I mean, people respond incredibly well to that. And we talked to Marco at Unseen Creatures, and he sees the same thing. Obviously, he's rolling out with some mixed culture beers out the gate. Ours, we're still kind of waiting, conditioning, and fooders. But we've seen a huge, I'd say like 30% of our sales go to sours or so.
Yeah, probably close.
And so I think it's going to be, I think the balance is going to be finding a way to kind of articulate to our consumer that these beers are sour just like those, but they've got, way more complexity and time and attention and kind of romancing the idea of what they are and kind of showcasing the beauty and that time gives to beers. And so I think they will respond well. I don't know that maybe there will be as much of I don't know. Maybe not aware of the time that went into and the differentiation between the two, but I think sour beer in general is definitely perceived well here. It's just maybe getting them to understand the difference between the two.
Interesting. And yeah, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned Marco at Unseen Creatures in Miami. It's someplace that we need to go to.
Right.
I mean, we're very close to Matt Manthy's place over at Odd Breed, and then over in the St. Pete area, obviously, you've got Nick with Inoculum. And it seems like there's a lot of people that are really pushing the envelope when it comes to this style and kind of not just blazing a trail, but really kind of getting into unknown territory with a lot of these beers.
Yeah.
Who were the people that you really looked at to inspire you when it came time to open up Odd Colony?
There's a long list, but I if I had to name some off the cuff, Fauna Flora is a huge one for me. I was brewing in Asheville for 3 years at Schwinn-Leaf, and they were the first brand to me that kind of nailed everything that I see in beer. And so they've always been one that I've kind of idolized, and focus on local agriculture, focus on foraging and utilizing mixed culture, capturing those local yeast cultures and growing those up as well, and they just do an exceptional job. Beautiful product, beautiful branding, everything. But outside of that, I would say Scratch is another huge one. Actually never been up there, but have had plenty of their beers, and I love how they incorporate so much adjuncts into all styles, from mixed culture to clean beers as well, and I think they do it beautifully. Other breweries, I'd say Jester King, Burial Beer, really good friends with Tim, head brewer at Burial. Actually was our first collaboration a couple months after opening. They opened their doors to us, and we're obviously eternally grateful for that. But beyond just being an exceptional brand, brewery, and concept, they're also great people. So those guys are definitely on that list. Heirloom Rustic Ales was a huge influence. To be honest, Marco at Unseen Creatures was definitely on our list of breweries that we were, even though they opened 2 months after us, they were like that benchmark brewery that we were watching like develop at the same timeline. So that was kind of a cool thing. And we've got plenty more that.
Yeah, no, I think it's super solid list.
Yeah, and there's I'm sure plenty more to be done.
So let's shift a little bit back to Pensacola, because obviously, like you said, you're kind of bored. It's good that you're doing so much business that your crowler machine needs to be replaced, obviously, but clearly business is not where it is now like it was before. Once this is all over, do you think that a lot of the breweries in Pensacola will be able to bounce back eventually? Have you heard of anybody that may not be with us once this is over?
Oh, hot question.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's definitely breweries that are, may have been fighting more than others pre-COVID. But I don't know any info of like anybody who's going down or anything. But I mean, the support's been awesome. I mean, we're paying bills on to-go only sales, which is just feel incredibly fortunate. And definitely not making any money, but it's not all about that at the end of the day. But we're just I think the way I'm looking at it is, if this lasts a month longer, okay, we're just hoping it doesn't last 6 to 9 months longer, I guess. Like we're just kind of all saying it has to end at some point. But yeah, I mean, these guys and Brett has done like such a good job at branding this place, and we got off to such a hot start because we were 5 months old when this hit, and so that's kind of a nightmare recipe for a new brewery. And there's some people like Emerald Republic who opened in Pensacola who are doing great things. Who are, I think they were 3 months old, maybe two, 3 months old.
And then we also had another brewery, Coastal County, that opened like 2 days.
Yeah, 2 days before the shutdown. And so, like, if we were in that position, like, we did not have the operating account to manage that if that would happen to us. And so we're grateful for that. But yeah, I mean, I certainly hope everybody.
You guys had that to-go setup going already, where you have crowlers going out, you have bottles going. I'm sure you're doing growler fills as well. That helps keep your name out there and keeps your beer going to where people remember you. Now, when things do reopen, they want that beer they had, a month ago, 2 months ago. It's not a horrible place to be.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And kind of the funny part is when we were debating whether we were going to do a C&B license or not, and I'm super cheap sometimes, and I was like, I don't know, like we were running low on cash, and Brett was like, we got to do crowlers, like we can't get crowlers, so we ended up getting a C&B, and I can't imagine if I would have had the sole decision on that, and it would have been very bad, but it certainly kept us afloat, through this, and sales were, have definitely surpassed my expectations throughout all this. I think people are just stopping by all the time just because they want to see these places when this, situation ends.
Awesome. And there's one thing that you actually mentioned before we got on the show today, that you technically are not open yet. You technically fall under the listing of a bar, but the restaurants are starting to reopen a little bit. But you also mentioned that you, much like many other breweries, have a really good relationship with local food trucks in the area. And I guess that begs the question, couldn't your partnership with a food truck technically lift you both into someplace where you could be opening and have the seating that the food truck needs? I'm curious as to whether that's a discussion that you've tried to sort of figure out.
Yeah, so you want me to take this one?
Yeah.
So I've written Governor DeSantis. He may have blocked me by now, but we've been writing on a daily basis on every social media platform or email possible, begging that exact same scenario. We've gotten no answer, and we're well aware that all those people are very busy and respect that. But all our local officials, no one disagrees that breweries with a food truck that can provide social distancing, we all have massive outdoor areas to seat people at. Like, no one here in Pensacola disagrees with that. But it's going to have to come from the state level, because the governor cannot supersede regulations. He can be more conservative on regulations or the executive order, but he can't go more aggressive. And so I've talked to our mayor, Griver Robinson, and he's very supportive of everything and wishes we could open, but he doesn't have the authority to go above. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until, I don't know, I imagine sometime in June. I mean, I'd bet a heavy penny that sometime in June we'll be open, but we're going to wait patiently. And, I told Brett earlier, I don't want to be on the front page of the Pensacola News Journal for doing something stupid. So we're going to sit back and kind of wait for the right time and responsible time to open.
Exactly. You don't want to have what happened in Maine with that one brew pub that got their liquor license pulled with everything.
Yeah. We're not.
Yeah, we've put way too much at stake to risk what we have in this place and risk a license. So, unfortunately, like we had,
has there been any pressure coming from the patrons to open? Any sort of, hey, these people are open, let's go, move it, come on. Even if you have to do it illegally, open it up. Has there been a lot of stressful, pressure coming from that end?
No, I mean, you'll see comments on social media, every once in a while, a couple today that are like, just open, we have your back, but mostly for, no, not overarching by any means. I mean, I think the average consumer that we have in this place are, pretty informed and responsible of what's going on. And so they realize that we don't have a kitchen, and the logic of us having a food truck, like Eric from Two Bird Street Food is out front right now serving food, and we're back in our event space. But the logic of consumer can be sitting here with an Odd Colony beer with a plate of food is more dangerous than someone having going to a bar that serves cheese plates. Makes no sense. I'm kind of almost done fighting that battle, but it just it's what it is, and we're going to open when we're allowed to at the end of the day.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I shall leave you with the question that I sort of leave everybody, and I am curious from your end because you are more on the production side than the influencer side like Steve and I. Obviously, we want this to be over as soon as possible. Obviously, you've had to make some changes, and you've seen other people, in the state and the country make changes just to survive right now. Once all of this is over, once we are back to normal operation, are there some changes that you have made yourselves or that you've seen other breweries make that you would like to have become a part of normal brewery operations?
Maybe we can both answer. I'll get first if you want.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I think it's a big wake-up call to how important sanitation is. So I think we'll definitely have a lot of increased sanitation procedures. I think outdoor seating is going to be massive coming out of this. So I'm pointing at it like you can see it, but behind our laptop, we have a back alley that is beautiful, that has a great horizon. So we're going to we just bought a bunch of string lighting that we're going to set up all down the alley, have tables there because we anticipate people being super comfortable in outdoor seating, maybe not inside seating right away. And so we're building a big beer garden out back. And so if that would probably be my main thing. We're focusing on outdoor seating a ton. Table service will be something we're launching, so you don't have to go to the bar. Because if I had to guess, I think bar seating's probably going to be banned if we get the go-ahead to open. Yeah, I could be wrong, but that's my guess. And so I think just giving people space during these weird times in the pandemic is going to be of the utmost importance. And sanitation, we're going to hold a Monday meeting with our staff on increased sanitation procedures according to the CDC and all that good stuff. But I mean, that's my main thing.
And I think for us on the brewery side, again, we did a live stream with Marco the other night. We were talking about how I think it's important that you kind of go back to your roots and kind of figure out who are you, what are you missing out on, what is time kind of taking away during its, in the standard life, it's very fast moving, and kind of how we were, it was just like flying by the seat of our pants. How do we get a product into our consumer's hand? But now kind of going back, evaluating ideals. One big one for us was again, like we talked about at the beginning, was utilizing local agriculture, because we believe that gives something unique to our area. It's like a restaurant, it's like a soda company, it's like a brewery. It should speak the sound, the flavor, the nature of your region. So we've been doing, since this happened, the silver linings, we've had a couple. It's I've gotten to hang out with my family a lot more, but I've also gotten to go on a lot of foraging trips, and so we've got a lot of cool mixed culture stuff with locally foraged goods, and that we launched looking to do that, but we ran out of time. Now we're saying hey, if we have two less offerings, let's make sure that they count. Let's make sure that they're speaking to our name and what we want to do. So it's been a good evaluation time period, even though it was 4.5 months that we've been open prior to this. It's been, if I can pull anything good from it, that's been it, and we've been kind of pushing hard on that.
100%. I think I just told my wife last night. I was like, the quality of our beer, which was good to start out with, and creativity of our product has skyrocketed during this, and so we're pretty excited to release what we've been working on through this.
Right now you're not in a rush to be tap. You're in a rush to question the quality up. That's all.
Yeah, we got to go.
Yeah, we got to go. No, we opened. we opened expecting a good response, but it was far better than we could have imagined, which was great, but it also kind of put us on our heels.
Yeah.
And it's good to kind of be back flat-footed again and kind of evaluating what we're doing. So.
Awesome. That's definitely exciting to hear. I definitely think a lot of people would mirror the creativity part, because just sort of sitting around, and now you can do things that you couldn't really do before. So it's great to hear, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on the Sunshine State Happy Hour. It's been a long time trying to get you here, and I'm definitely glad that you did. And we seriously need to go to Pensacola.
I'm probably going to be there in July. So
seriously,
Sweet.
Seriously,
Dude, yeah.
We might be open.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
we never Sunshine State Happy Hour is probably going to take a 3-day weekend. Monday, can't really do anything because of other things that we need to take care of. Tuesday, we will be back. We're going to be doing a little bit more lager layover stuff, which is basically everything that's not in the state of Florida. So we're actually going to be visiting with Four Generals Brewing in Redmond, Washington, the home of Magic the Gathering, because that's exactly how big
Wizards of the Coast is.
because that's just how big a geek I am. But yeah, definitely check us out. Check us out on social media. We're at Florida Beer Blog, at Lager Layover, FloridaBeerBlog.com. Odd Colony Brewing. I know that's your Instagram account, which has a lot of great stuff on it. I don't know if you're on Twitter. I haven't been able to find you.
I don't think so.
No, that's fine.
Not to my knowledge.
But definitely jump on there. Jump on their website. The bone taps are phenomenal to look at. Just that alone is worth a shot to go. Gentlemen, thank you so much for showing up and chatting with us for a little bit. We will see you all after the weekend on Tuesday. Have a great weekend.
Cool.